Welcome to the Forbes Factor, featuring celebrity TV host, million-dollar entrepreneur, and renowned health and fitness superstar, Forbes Riley, a familiar face from TV, as well as one of today's most sought-after female motivational speakers today. You'll connect with some of the top experts in health and fitness, business and personal development, as well as some surprise celebrities, all sharing their insight, tips, and tricks to finding true happiness. Now, here's your host, Forbes Riley.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Forbes Factor. I have actually some fun news to bring you up to speed on what I've been up to, and then I've got Forbes Factor news. You know, I have been teaching Forbes Factor Lives for about 20 years. I, at some point, said maybe I don't want to just do my name, and came up with the Forbes Factor as the it factor, the missing factor. And I've been very successful with teaching these breakthrough trainings and teaching pitch classes, and I've had an absolute blast doing it. Well, it dawned on me, as every entrepreneur or major platform speaker like I am needs a manifesto book. I didn't really have one. And so I was noodling around the other day. I like to redefine words. And it started out when I was in my 20s. I was kind of upset because there was this big thing of you need to have it all. And back then, having it all was, in fact, having 2.5 kids, it was like 2.5 children, a very successful husband, a car in the suburbs. I was living in New York at the time. And I didn't have it all. I was an actress. I was a freelancer. I was having a blast, but I didn't have it all. And I was getting very sad about this. And one day, as I'm prone to do, I was playing around with the word and I flipped it on its side. It became A-L-L. And I said, what if I changed all's meaning to a loving life? So yeah, you know what? I have that. And so now I could actually say I have it all and feel very comfortable about that. And then I got a little obsessed with this idea of what if I changed and redefined a lot of words? Because there were words that were not working for me. The one in my 20s that was so not working for me was the word diet. Diet means starvation, deprivation, counting calories. I was miserable. I was on every stupid diet known to man, and I gained, I lost. Ugh. And one day it dawned on me. I said, D-I-E-T, decisions I eat today. And my world changed forever. And all of a sudden it became apparent to me that, well, I can decide to eat a bread today, but then I can't also have the bread and the cake for dessert and the alcohol before. So pick one. Oh, well, that's interesting. Or I could have grapefruit for breakfast and I made all these different decisions. And I realized that this was an exciting thing. I created an entire program called my Eat Journal based on D-I-E-T, decisions I eat today. Then I got kind of crazy. I said, how about I redefine the word sexy? Because it was bothering me. I was single at the time. I'm like, I don't want to be sexy for someone else. You know what sexy stands for? Seeing excellence in yourself. Oh, I love that. So I was sitting around and I realized that what if I did that with Forbes Factor? What does this really mean to me? I've been on this mission to help others. I teach a couple of classes where we really dive into your MBA. What is your mission, your vision, your core values that every entrepreneur really, really deserves to nail down? You can't all just be a life coach. It helps if you understand your why, what makes you different from other people. And Forbes Factor, now get a pen because get this, and it's coming out soon, became the 12-step blueprint. And I would love your feedback on this. We're broadcasting live on Facebook if you have a thought about this. And I won't give them all to you. I don't want to give away the whole book. But the first 3 became foundation, which is, I talk about that all the time. If you have cracks in your foundation, it's hard to build a 2-story house, let alone a skyscraper. And you certainly can't build it on sand because that's not going to work. The O became organization. And organization from your brain to your desk, to your closet, to your pantry. What does it mean to be organized? You know how many hours we spend literally in your lifetime? Where's my phone? What did I do with my keys? I don't know where I put this. And maybe you don't, but I do. And so I have all these tips and tricks and techniques for that. And then R is become release. And for me, that is my whole breakthrough concept. That now you've got your foundation, you've organized it, but if you can't let the stuff go from your past, you cannot move forward. So I'll leave you guys to understand and discover or ask me what BES is, and then Factor is F-A-C-T-O-R. I will tell you the last one is rejoice, and that is about celebrating. And so often we don't take the time to celebrate our wins. And sometimes they don't even feel like wins. but that is the practice of gratitude. And when you wake up in the morning, if you're still here and you're on this side of the dirt and there's somebody next to you or not next to you, or there's kids or there's not, what are you in fact grateful for? So I want to say hi to some of my Facebook friends, from Dawn to Carrie Bolden. I've got some great people in my family now. I didn't have much of a family growing up. Everyone always had these cousins and aunts and uncles, and I had my mom was an only child. My dad was one brother and no cousins, and just very small, intimate family. And I have always wanted to be part of a bigger family. My in-laws, I had 5 brothers and sisters on my in-laws side, and I loved that. But what I discovered is that you don't have to be born into a family. You get to make your own family. And maybe that's one of the F's. I won't tell you what the other F is for. There's all kinds of choices. In fact, my son's going to join me today as my special guest. And the reason is he's become an amazing young man. He's always been amazing. And it's funny, I recently was going through some old videotapes and I came up with a little speech that he gave when he was 8 years old. And I was just enamored. I said, would you come be my guest today? I'm blown away by how he and his twin sister have spent their senior year at home. So different from the senior year you dream about when you're a little kid. I want to go to the high school prom and the football game. And in fact, he was in fact quarterback at some point. And then COVID shifted all of that. So I want to talk to him about that, about how he eats. And he's just fun to talk to because he thinks so differently from other people. He's very logical, very smart. But I also have visions of him as this little moppy-haired boy that I just, with big blue eyes, thought was the cutest thing in the entire world. I had no boys in my life growing up except my dad. And this little boy played sports and he was just fun to be around. And I'm excited to connect with him. Before we delve into him, though, I just want to leave you with another thought that I've been a little thinking about as I'm writing this book. And that is, what are you passionate about? I come on here every week, and I've been doing this for years, and I realize I'm passionate about connecting with you, with having you share ideas, with listening to you, with having guests on. But I will tell you, if you're an entrepreneur, don't be boring. You have to come to the table with not only an idea, but the energy. It's like having a great car and no gas. It doesn't go anywhere. And a car to work, by the way, has to have everything. It has to have great tires with air in them. It has to have an engine and seats and this and that and oil. It's overwhelming, right? Well, so do you as an entrepreneur. You have to be firing on all of these little hot buttons. So number one, if you are stuck as an entrepreneur, I am your best friend, okay? If you are stuck, what that means is I've got a couple of systems in place. One of them is called GSD. That stands for get shit done. Now, I'm probably not supposed to say it on the air, but I'll say it again. Get shit done. And that, I discovered, is the biggest problem that entrepreneurs have. They have great ideas, but they don't get anything done. You have lots of excuses and shiny objects. And so my beautiful daughter and son have come up with this idea, especially coming out of high school. Think about it. In one day, they would go from science to math to history to civil rights to 8 different subjects and a foreign language. And they go, Mom, what are you doing? I'm like, Facebook. I want to write my idea. I want to do this. I got so little done. And then they realized that so many of my entrepreneur friends got so little done in an entire day. And they were doing all these things and they were getting good grades. So we put together this training because the other thing as an entrepreneur is you need a toolbox. There's all kinds of things in your toolbox. If you show up as a plumber and you have a hammer and that's it, they're going to send you home. But as an entrepreneur, do you have your database management system? Do you have an ebook that gets leads? Do you have a capture page? Do you have all of those things? Oh, wait, you don't? Yeah, that's most entrepreneurs don't. And then you're so busy doing it all yourself that you never get it done. Well, we're going to shift that. So if you want information on that, they're the sponsor of the show today. It is www.GSD with Forbes. I invite you to come. Every month we do a project. So we went from an ebook to a course to a funnel to a you name it. We're going to get stuff done so that you as the entrepreneur have all the tools that you need in your tool chest to make money, go on vacation, live a great life, enjoy your kids, because that's, unless you just want to work all the time, because you can do that. You can also have a car that's in the garage, and if you put gas in it, but it doesn't really have good wheels, it still doesn't go anywhere. I know you need all of those things. So without further ado, my beautiful son is here. Ryker, do you want to pop up from being, I think I invited him. Forbes Riley, I see you there, but I don't see you on my stage. There he is. He's coming. This is cool. It's the first time we've ever done this. And he does have his sister's name there, which is funny. Mr. Ryker Riley, and the crowd goes wild. How are you?
Hello. Good. Yeah, I had to join as a panelist. Sorry, I was watching though. I saw what you were saying earlier.
Can you tweak your name so anybody actually watching this on Facebook knows that you're not? I can actually rename you as well.
Believe it or not, I'm not McKenna.
No, but he does have a twin sister. They don't look anything alike, which is so interesting. And it's funny, growing up, she was the tall one and he was shorter. And we kept thinking, oh, that's going to be kind of like, I don't know. I like my guys being taller. And then one day he woke up and was like the beanpole. Ryker became 6'3"?
Yeah, 6'3".
Yeah, and your sister's 5'9". You got there. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and it happened all through high school. I want to say I grew like almost like 2 inches a year. It was crazy.
So thank you for being on the show. I think this is really cool. It's like, I found this book, which I think I just showed you. And I wrote the book 18 and a half years ago. And it went something like, I can't believe how pregnant I am. Is it supposed to be like this? Do I want to throw up? And I shouldn't write this because I don't want to complain. Then it went to, dear kids, this is the last note I will write to you while you're inside of me. And then I wrote, and I hope that you grow into your names, Ryker and McKenna. I'm excited to talk to you about this. And let's see how it turns out. Well, we bent time the other day. And the girl who wrote that is talking to the 18-year-olds who were inside. It was like, wow, what did that do for you in your head?
Well, I didn't know that you were writing that stuff down in the moment. But I know you talk a lot about how you manifested a lot of that into reality. And I do have, looking back at it, even though I had no idea you had basically, I'm not gonna say you pre-planned my life, but you definitely, the stuff that you influenced and the ways that you taught me definitely like garnered the outcome that you desired. And like when you showed me the book, I thought it was crazy because the drawing you were talking about, she has this drawing of me that looks exactly like me with my baseball cap. I know you're looking for it right now, but when I used to play baseball, I came in and she knew I looked exactly like a drawing she had made. It was almost like, what, 10 years ago?
25 years before. All right. Now, unfortunately, if you're listening to this on radio, you can't see what we're telling you, but I advise you to go to my Facebook, because what Ryker's talking about is that I have a little book. I used to journal all the time before I really understood. And I journaled a lot of things that came true, which were odd, like going on a safari, always having a house with a pool and a jacuzzi. This particular one also says, I really want a CD with stereo player, which means that tells you how old it was. But I drew this picture. If you're watching on Facebook, I think it's just fascinating. And it says, while meditating, I drew this picture of a woman long and lithe with a boy. And there's a picture. Now, you need to notice that his baseball uniform has a V on it, and his baseball cap has something on the front, like a little emblem and kind of a round face. That was in 1987. I gave birth to little Ryker Riley and his sister in 2002. By the time he's in Little League, you're 8 or 9, so now it's like 2010. And we moved from New York to LA to Florida. You don't carry books with you. Well, he walks in one day and he had his uniform on. He had a little picture. Hey, Mom, they took pictures of us. And it was the weirdest moment. I could feel time go. And I said, stand there. I remember in our house on Bayshore, and I walked into the garage and I had all these Tupperware containers I guess I'd carried with me. And I knew exactly where this book was, which seemed very odd that I would know where something was that I did 23 years before. And if you guys can see this on Facebook, do you see how the picture of him, he's wearing a V-neck shirt with a little thing on his hat. It looks just like what I drew 25 years before I met him. And I swear it's one of the coolest things that I have ever seen in my life. I don't actually know what it means, except that I knew I wanted you all along. But you said something interesting about, because I was an older mom, I'm 42 years older than you. How does that feel, by the way? Is that, you have friends, most of them probably have moms younger.
I've seen that, but I've actually it's never really affected me because, one, you don't act like it. And you have the spirit of a 20-year-old. So I haven't noticed anything. I haven't had to help you, get out of a car or do any of that. You're just as spunky, doing your spin gym and stuff like that. So that the age thing doesn't even register in my mind. To me, when you say 60, sometimes I have to step back. I'm like, no way, this isn't right. And so yeah, I haven't really felt anything different.
Well, but as an older mom, I had a little bit more time to think about what I wanted to do with my kids. And not that I'm a control freak, but I'm a magician, and your grandpa is a magician. And I love to figure out things, and I love the human brain. And we used to do exercises when you guys were little, like the "What do you want" game, And it's funny because I look at the two of you. We used to play this game because somebody told me when kids were little, they don't share, and I thought, well, that's not cool. And so we used to, when you would have a toy, or you might wanted to fight over a toy, I'd make one of you count to 10, and then you give it to the other one, count to 10, give it back. And there was never any yelling and screaming in our house. You just had this little system that seemed to work. And then the "What do you want" thing is I used to also love to train dogs. I know, I wrote that in a book once, how to train your kids like dogs. I got a lot of, that's not quite what it meant. But when a kid says, I want a cookie, or I want something, I would go, great. And the two of them were so cute when they were younger. They were bookends. And I'd go wiggle, 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 and they both would. And I'd say, touch your nose if you want a cookie, wiggle your ears but I'd always end it with, if you want a cookie, say I love you to the other one. If you want a cookie, give each other a hug and a kiss. And if you want a cookie, give your mommy a kiss, say I love you. Do you find that when you leave me, or like when we're on the phone, we always say I love you, don't we?
Yeah, and that's actually really funny because I've been in an argument with like my parents before, and I've said I love you at the end, even though we could be butting heads and I'm like super mad. It's almost like it's programmed, like she said, that I just have to say it. And she told me this story about McKenna. She got mad at her for not saying I love you, and that's when she sort of clicked that her programming, if you will, sort of kicked in, and like because of her philosophy as well. A lot of you guys obviously know about her breakthrough. She talks about how you're wired all the way to your core memories and stuff like that. And so in that learning phase, if you teach those foundations and stuff like that, our base setting to what we do our choices off is that. And so like a lot of the like saying I love you, it becomes instinctive because I know all the way in the back of my brain that from the start, I should say I love you at the start. And it's like habits. In 90 days to build a habit, if you've been doing it for years, a decade, that habit, you'll never break that habit. And so,
but that's a really good habit to have, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. Because even at the end of the day, you could be very angry with your family, but it's important to know and say I love you, just because, and you never know what happens. If it's the last thing you said was something hateful on the phone with someone, versus, you did fight, but you still said I love you at the end. At least you have that closure or something that they knew that you loved them and stuff like that. And so it's just, you always say I love you. You always appreciate family like that. Especially when
Well, I'm going to say something. I'm sorry, I didn't mean there's a little delay. Also, you had 4 sets of twins in Shorecrest at some point. Do you think you guys were closer than the other kids as sister brother?
Yeah, I do. I think a lot of the relationships they were girl. Actually, they're all pretty much girl. There was one boy girl I was about to mention, but they didn't seem as close as we were. They never really hung out. Like for me and McKenna, it was never an issue hanging out. We would always just assume we could hang out together. For them, they had their separate friends. For us, we shared everything. And
but I will tell you, I think that something call me crazy, but something had to do with it, the way you were raised. Number one, we used to end probably 15, 20 times a day with you guys hugging, kissing, and saying, I love you. I don't know many other families that even think to do that, but it might have some impact. And then the other thing too is I never listened to what other people said. I always marched to my own drummer. I remember when you guys were little, moms would go, oh my God, my kids are 2 and they're sleeping in a big person's bed. I'm like, my kids are 4 and they're still hanging out in their crib. That was like, you're a safe place. Like, why would you want to leave that? Like, you'd have you wake up, your books were there. She was right there. You guys could hang out and play with each other. Oh, that's like the coolest thing to have somebody your own age to play with. Same thing in the stroller. Remember the side-by-side strollers?
Oh,
I kept you guys in. I know you may not think about this, but maybe this will help you when you have kids. But you guys were in that till like you were 4 years old. Because I think both of you were like, hey, you know what? I got a little jar for Cheerios and I'm kind of comfortable. I don't have to walk on my own. And you're always together. And I think, how about you guys didn't sleep in different rooms? So you're like, we're 10. And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe, I'm excited because now you are 18 years old. Describe how different you thought your senior year would be versus how it ended up being.
Oh, my senior year. Wow.
Oh, shoot. You know what? I'm so sorry. I'm so excited to talk to you that I missed my break. We have to take a quick commercial break. I was like looking at the panelists. I'm so sorry, you guys. We are a live radio show. And my producers like 4 minutes ago said, hey, we're ready for a break. So we'll be right back after this. You're listening to Forbes Factor. I'm just so excited. I'm hanging out with my 18-year-old son, Ryker Riley, and we will be right back after this message.
All clear.
I apologize about that.
No worries, Forbes.
You want to just do 2 breaks then?
Yeah, no problem.
All right, cool. And we are still live on Facebook. And so Olga and Carrie and a whole bunch of people are listening to us. So we're just going to keep talking. You were about to say something about, I mean, interrupt you.
Graduation.
Yeah, senior year and all that. So that's funny. Looking back at it, it was crazy because it was like, oh, we get an extra week of school extended. All of a sudden, that extra week lasted an entire year, which was bizarre to think about, especially because they tell you, oh, senior year is the year of like goofing off and like being the top dog of the school and all that. And then being stuck at home for a year, not being able to even go outside was the last thing I thought my senior year would look like. However, it was probably the biggest blessing in disguise I've ever seen, because although a lot of people suffered, and like the COVID pandemic as a whole is no blessing, it's a real tragedy actually. We made the best of a worse situation as a family, and in a time where things started looking dire, as in my mom couldn't even go to HSN and do what she did to make a living. McKenna stepped up to the plate and with her, they created an entire business. And while I was doing my academics and I was focusing on all of that, they came up with an entire business that I now love. I'm actually in it now, learning, and I'm not going to college this next year because of the COVID pandemic. And instead, I'm just dedicated to learning about business and actually using experience and stuff. And that's like kind of interesting that our senior year went that way, because college is all about the college experience as well, going in and talking to people and stuff like that. So going through the year of senior year, like of high school, doing that, I know I do not want college to be like that. I want college to be how the experience is.
15 seconds.
Okay, so when we come back, Ryker, I would love to circle back around because our audience on our podcast didn't hear what we just said. So let's just kind of start again with about graduation and really talk about what college.
You are listening to the Forbes Factor. To call in with a question or comment, please call 1-866-472-5795. That's 1-866-472-5795. Or send an email to Forbes@ForbesRiley.com. Now back to the show. Here's Forbes Riley.
Hey, everybody, it is Forbes Riley. Welcome back to the Forbes Factor. We focus on health, wealth, and happiness. And today I'm incredibly happy because my special guest is one of my favorite people on the entire planet, my 18-year-old son, Ryker Riley. I am what's known as a weirdly proud mama. But Ryker, before we get into college and stuff, I'm going to ask you a question. You said something to me when you were like 9 or 10 years old. We're driving in the car. You said, Mom, I'm not really good at anything. You were so sad. Like you had friends who were excellent at swimming or excellent at baseball. And what did I say to you? And how did that turn out like 8 years later?
Well, hold on. It's the thing that I wasn't really good. I was good enough to make the team and do that, but I would always be very jealous of like the basketball superstar guy or the baseball superstar guy who was just so good at his one thing. And that was really frustrating because I would try out for all these teams, but I'd always be right dead in the middle.
But you did all the teams. In fact, you ended up being a high school quarterback on your varsity team. So let's get real about how good you are.
I went from wrestling, golfing, bowling to being a high school quarterback. I just did a little bit of everything. And when I came back to my mom and said this, she looked at me like I had said I was like saying something that was wrong. Like, why would you be upset about that? Like, why would you want to only be good at one thing when life is about doing many, many different things, about doing everything and experience, like getting out in the world and doing as many things as possible. Like recently, I got offered a job to work at my uncle's place that does wiring for conference rooms and stuff like that. And rather than immediately shoot it down because I'm already working, I wanted to hear them out and learn more, because even if I didn't even get the job, I learned just a little something, and just learning all of that, all the accumulation of all that stuff, eventually down the road, because you never know where life's going to take you, could lead to the perfect opportunity. And having all that knowledge and being good all around could actually make you the best of where you're going to be.
And you know what's so great is I actually told you that. I said, you surf. You water ski, you snow ski, you snowboard. You can do a lot of things. And I said that to you when you were little, because I said, I'm a little further down the road. And I watched the kids who only did one thing, and they're kind of unhappy because when their friends want to go do this, they don't know how to do that. You even know how to roller skate and inline skate. You're and by the way, you are physical and you're athletic. So when you do something, you're good at it. But that turned out okay, didn't it?
Yeah, and my dad liked to joke that he trained us to be super spies because we're good at a little bit of everything, like how James Bond could ski and do all this and drive cars and all that.
Well, I tell everybody that's what I wanted to be, James Bond, when I was little. So, and we even have a piano. I said, if you just learn one song on the piano, the girls will love you. So, all right. So now we're talking about, there's certainly people who go through school, they know what they want to do. I don't know that I did. I thought I was going to be a lawyer, but I always wanted to be an actress. And so senior year is very different for you than it's ever been for anybody in the history of this country. And I am the first kid in my family to go to college. It was a big deal. My sister didn't. She wanted to go a different path. But I saved money for you to go to college. Couldn't wait it. You're both very smart, but straight A students. And what's going to happen?
Well, turns out I actually didn't apply to a single college this year, despite being summa cum laude and having high school quarterback on my transcript and stuff like that. I chose not to because I really thought about what college is for me. And so unless you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher or something where the education they're going to teach you is very specific, it's not like you can hop on a course and learn it. You should go to college because you need to. That's what doctor doing your, and even then you go to school after and you do housing in the hospital and actually learn how to do that stuff through experience. And so what I wanted to do was get into business and the online world, and college is a little bit outdated. Not the information is good, but they're trying to catch up. It seems like government and schooling is a little bit behind of what's actually current always. And with the nowadays of the internet, your return of investment on anything you pay out for courses and stuff is so much higher if you stick with it than college, because college, you could be looking at $100,000 debt. And then the job you get is the lowest paying job in a company. And now you have to pay off that. You have to pay for housing. You have to be an adult and all the other random things life could throw at you, plus $100,000 debt. And if you're a doctor, yeah, you can pay that off because that's what you're going to be doing, and that makes sense. Or a lawyer, that makes sense. But if you're doing business, that doesn't make much sense. Why wouldn't you go learn business from a business? Walk down the street and learn, like go hire somewhere, like go get a job somewhere and watch how they hire you and learn that. It's not the actual what they're teaching you, like how to, make a burrito at Chipotle, but how did they onboard you and get you in the door and teach you everything? That process you could take away and then put into your own project. And so something big now, obviously, is the world of online courses. Courses are so easy to make with the right programs like GSD. They're coming out with a brand new course section for this month. You can learn exactly how to, one, do what you love and make money doing it. And it's so simple. I mean, it's like everything you could ever want and more is on the internet. So why not use it? And it's basically free other than, paying for power and computer parts. But like I looked at Jeff Lerner, who made a $58 million business from a laptop. That, to me, that $1,000 laptop is worth more than the entire college education. The reason, though, I would go to college and why I still want to go to college is for the connections and the experience, because you only live life once, and being in an area, almost like a city of young people and vibrant and all sorts of culture, that's why I would go to college. And of course, learning stuff there too, like the education, of course, isn't useless, but it's not as valuable as it was 60 years ago when your return of investment of going to college could land you the corporate job that will take care of you for the rest of your life. So that's why, and especially this next upcoming semester, if they're putting it back online, that's going to be frustrating.
Well, I'm sitting here just like my buttons are bursting and I'm loving listening to and reading all the comments, but people calling you a rock star. So let me ask you a question. I think we did pretty good as a family between your dad, myself, your sister, how you grew up. We created a pretty solid kid. You and your sister both run my company, and you're brilliant at it, and I love it. What advice, and this is kind of interesting because you're only 18, might you give a mom whose son is maybe now 6, 8, 10, 12? What would you say to her to raise a kid as sensible and smart as you are?
Well, I would say 3 things. The first is having a sense of family and caring. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how successful you are. If you don't have people you can rely on and support systems around you, you'll crash and burn once you hit your first wall. Because I knew something very important for me was that, which ties into my second reason, is let them explore. Let them do everything on their own. Let them get hurt, not as in, messed up, but you try something and you fail and it sucks. It sucks so much because you wish it just worked on the first try, every single try. But that's not how the world works. So you come back to your parents and you're broken down and build them back up, because once you get over failure, you come out even higher than what you were if you had just plowed right through it. Because that means you didn't learn anything. When you learn something, that means you're growing. If you completed everything you did first try, you're not pushing yourself because you already know what to do, or you're the luckiest person in the world. Either or. And so support your kids and build that family, give them a good sense of family, people that they can rely on, let them explore and do all that stuff. And then the last one is I guess basically just more independence. Pretty much just teach them, don't make them need you, but want you. As in, that's what me and my mom were talking about the other day, as in, I don't need her for all this stuff, but whenever I hit a problem, I know she's been around the block and more. She's done everything under the sun work-wise, and she knows so much that I want to come to her for information and stuff when I get stuck. And she doesn't tell me what to do. She doesn't tell me to go get this job and stuff. She says, do what you want. But if you're going to do something, do it the best. There's no point in doing something you hate and trying really hard at it. Even if it's a stupid job in your thought process, let them see where they can go with it, because if it's a bad idea, they'll come to the conclusion themselves. You don't need to tell someone something's a bad idea, because it's probably not a bad idea. It's probably you think it's a bad idea. They have a dream and you're crushing it in your kid. If you tell them, don't do that, that's a bad idea. Because what they could have been, you're completely hindering, and you're sending them down this path of resentment and all this stuff. Rather, keep supporting them. Show them how to make it work the best. And eventually, if they're like, well, you know what, maybe this isn't the right idea, you get what you want, they're happy with you, and they've just learned a whole lot, and they'll probably then make another decision in a more area that you would probably agree with.
So you saw your mom and your dad work a lot. I traveled a lot. I wasn't always there. Did that help you formulate some of these opinions, do you think? Or hurt it?
Well, I would say a little bit of help and a little bit of hurt, but not for why you think. So it helped because you being away a lot, it was very liberating, as in there was only one parent. So I had a lot more independence and stuff, especially when he was off doing his own thing. A lot of stuff I was doing, I was learning on my own and doing that. But I would say it hurt only because if we didn't have the other half. Because if you were always out of the house, or I didn't have someone in the family that I could look towards or come towards, it would hurt. But you were very strategic, as you always had someone with us, and that's why it worked out so well. And at the end of the day, I completely understand what you did, because the parent at home always reinforced they're doing this for you. And so whenever you came home, all I want to do was shower you with love, because you're giving us all this. So it wasn't oh, I don't get to spend time with my mom. And the thing is, though, every time she was gone, she made the moments matter. All these I have so many great memories of my mom, yet I think she was there less than my dad. But the reason why is because it does, I would rather her
give me a couple. We actually only have 4 minutes till the end of the show. Give me a couple of key moments that you remember.
Okay, so a key moment has to be in Italy during Christmas, when she took us through to this mountain in this lodge place where we did snowball fights, and we had our Christmas there, and We even went to Dusseldorf in Germany and went to these Christmas markets, which were just awesome. Sticks out like a sore thumb in my brain. Great Wall of China, walking on that was craziest thing ever. And going into China in general, I mean, it was nuts. And then, what else? Even recently,
roller skating.
Oh yeah, that's one of our things, like going roller skating and stuff like that. And it beats having a mom that's always around doing nothing versus having a mom who is doing something. We're doing something great over here. You might not be there, but when you come back, you make great memories. Like you make.
And I'll tell you what,
time count.
I only have 2 minutes. I don't want to cut you off. One of the things I didn't do strategically, you're gonna think this is weird, but I didn't bring souvenirs. I hate little tchotchke things anyway, because I realized I didn't want when I came home for it all to be about what did I bring you? What I brought you was me. And I think it right, but that made it like really cool, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.